So today's the 25th of January 2020. This is the St Thomas Pleasure Grounds, a lovely park. So this is managed by the Exeter City Council. So you can see in front here this sign that gives you all the details of the park. So we're going to have a very quick walk through the entire park, and then we're going to talk about all the various trees and shrubs here. So along here, this is Carrick Street, which for once is actually really quiet. That's quite spooky. And you've got some lovely trees in that church grounds over there. But we're going to focus on the trees in here. So the tree in front of me, there's actually a pair. So we have one here. Now when I say the tree in front of me, you can see there's two already. So the one we're going to focus on here is the dawn redwood, which is actually the taller tree, which some people would mistake it's actually dead. It's not, it's very much alive. Now dawn redwood, and I'll just walk back so you can see the other one, and this one is taller, but these are both dawn redwoods. These are non-native trees. They're actually native to China, and these are a very special type of tree because they're actually a deciduous conifer, which is quite unusual because most conifers are evergreen. But make no mistake, it is, like I say, a dawn redwood. Now the sad thing is, dawn redwoods are endangered, so we need to look after these trees. There are some arguments that because it's non-native, it doesn't have the same value. I'd question though that if a tree is endangered in its local area, it should be an obligation to give it the same care and treatment here. But planners and developers will use any excuse they can just to flatten somewhere. Luckily, this isn't a building area. This is a park managed by the Exeter County Council, and it's very well kept. So, like I say, I'm going to walk and talk, and it's going to have to be fairly quick, so I won't be able to go into too much detail on the trees. The tree behind this dawn redwood is a yew. I would say that it's difficult to say, but I'd say it's just a very well kept type of common yew. And then this small group of trees here, these are purple leaf plum, which are about to flower. You can even see the tips there. We have a small hawthorn. Again, difficult to tell what type, if it's going to have the lovely pink flowers or the typical white creamy ones. Various bushes and shrubs here, types of laurel. I think that's what they call the gold dust plant there, because it's got the very spotty leaves. And then you've got beech hedging, which is very useful and widespread. Now, you can see this lovely evergreen in front here. This is a Monterey pine, not native to this country. This is actually an endangered species as well. So we've got the dawn redwoods, which I say native to China, the Monterey pine, which from memory is America. Don't quote me on that, I do need to double check, but it's endangered. So typical pine tree needles, cones, and these cones you can probably just see, they get quite big, but they sort of grow at angles on the branches. Now some of the other trees here, we've got this lovely tree here. This is an Indian bean tree. Doesn't come from India, actually comes from East America, but that's just how the tree was named many years ago, and the name stuck. Lovely flowers on Indian bean trees. Bees go absolutely crazy for them. These two trees here, so if you can see these two really tall trees for the park, are maidenhairs or ginkgo. These are technically classed as ancient trees, based on fossil records. So as you can see, deciduous because there are no leaves at the moment. These two, from what I can tell, these lovely maidenhair trees, these ones are both female. because they bear the lovely sort of green, orangey, fleshy fruits later on in the autumn. So like I say, they're typically dioecious, so you have male and female separate trees, whereas our good friend here, the Monterey pine, just like most members of the pine family, are monoecious, which means you have the male and female flowers on the same tree but different parts. Lovely tree here is a blue atlas cedar, again not native to this country, and it is endangered. So actually in St Thomas Park, this particular area, what I class as the front of the park, you've got 3 different species, all non-native, complete mixture across the world, endangered species. So actually it's very important that these trees get looked after. And then you've got this lovely, very tall conifer at the back. Difficult to say, I'd have to double check, either a Lawson cypress or a western red cedar. You can just about see here, if I just point, this tree in front with a very weeping habit is a weeping ash, and they're really nice trees. The council did cut this back a lot last year. It was a lot bigger, but yeah, they did their maintenance on there. So again, our maidenhair from earlier. This is a small leaf lime, good sized specimen to work with. I've studied this tree quite a bit. Lovely tree. They do get a lot bigger though. These are native trees, so it's nice that we've got this far into the park and this is the first native tree. Regards the weeping ash, technically it's not a native species, because common or European ash is, but this is actually a cultivar. But even so, it's so closely related, you could argue that. But lovely tree otherwise. I believe that stump, I could be wrong, but I think that used to be an elm tree, but that was felled many years ago. The small newly planted tree, I've got to think what the council planted there. I think that was a Katsua tree. I've got to remember how to pronounce that, sorry. The tallest tree in the park that I would probably say is this Italian alder. Really tall tree here. As the name suggests, Italy. Alder trees are great for improving the ground conditions, nitrogen fixing roots, and they are interesting in fact they're in flower now. We might be able to take a look at the catkins, but I just need to talk about the other trees. This small one here is a sweet buckeye or yellow buckeye, not native to this country. Somewhere in America. I'll have to check my geography on that. But yeah, it's actually a member of the Acaleus family, which makes similar things to conkers, but they're not spiky. They're like, yeah, conkers without the green spikes. Got a nice birch tree here. This orangey red mixture of shrubs, type of dogwood by the look of it. And then you can just about see the little yellow flowers on the shrub there. That'll be a type of bachelor's buttons. And then you've got another, looks like a type of cherry or purple leaf plum possibly. And then you've got this lovely big tree here. So that's your beech tree. Really big one. Again, there are bigger ones if they're allowed to grow that size, but for a park this is a good sized beech tree, and that is a copper beech. Fagus sylvatica purpura is the big name if you want to know that. And the small tree that's actually in front of that beech tree is another beech tree, but this is a really unusual cultivar. That one there, the small one, that's a cut leaf beech. So it still has the same flowers and the same master nuts, but the actual leaves are, well, cut like, so it's really cool. So we've got a nice little cherry tree here as well. This large tree in front here, you can probably just see some of the fruit left on it. This is a tulip tree, not native to this country, but has absolutely stunning flowers. It's called the tulip tree because the leaves resemble a bit like tulips, but it's more that the flowers are very tulip-like. So we're going to probably walk that way around the park and then back on ourselves. So we'll carry on this way. These three huge trees here are field maple, and field maple is native to the UK. What's really nice is to see them this size, because field maple are often shrubs and hedges that you find just the typical countryside, but if allowed, and they have been, they will get to good sized trees. And it's great because these are native trees, so they're really well suited to all what the British weather can throw. Great for the wildlife. So just have a quick look around the rest of the park. This is a type of cherry. I can't be sure if it's flowering only or if it does actually make a viable fruit and seed. Quite often you'll get cherries that are only grown for the flowers. This tree here is a European ash, or common ash. And you can see some of the samaras, which is the fruit of the tree, like a papery, well, it's a mechanism for dispersing the seeds through the air, but helicopters. But they're not quite helicopters because they're typically from sycamores or maples, but they also call them ash keys. But the job is to the little seed inside will be propelled by the papery wings miles away from the tree. Ash trees native to this country, and unfortunately are having a hard time because of ash dieback, but they're really important to our landscape, so we need to try and keep as many as we can. So hopefully they will start to begin some sort of natural resistance to ash dieback, but we are going to lose quite a few of them. As far as I'm aware, this is the only large ash tree in this park. So moving on, this tree here, out of all the trees in the park, this is probably the most unusual. So this is the Pride of India. Lovely tree. It doesn't actually come from India. From memory, it's a Chinese tree. But when it's in flower, it has these stunning, long, yellow, dangling flowers. Real treat to see. Could really do with seeing more of these in Exeter. I've not seen, other than this park, I haven't seen any in any other parks. I've seen a few in private places, but it's nice to see more in actual public parks. So this tree right in front here is another dawn redwood. Now the reason why it looks so bedraggled is many children clamber up the tree. Unfortunately, as you can see, the middle section has taken quite a lot of branch damage. However, dawn redwoods, it'll be fine, it will recover, and it will grow quite big as well. Dawn redwoods get very tall. Redwoods are some of the tallest trees we have, well, in the world, because they're not native to this country. Type of rowan, difficult to say. Could be a Hupei rowan. So rowans are native to this country, but there are so many other types. So I know this is not a native rowan because the berries were not your typical red or orange. So it's a non-native rowan, but lovely. This one here in front is also the same. So that's also the same. I know they were either white or pink, the berries, but I never got time to properly study them. But actually I think you can probably see, maybe if we're lucky, what's left of some of the fruit on this tree. That's a fairly recent addition to the park, a small apple tree. This is the community garden, which is lovely. So this allows locals to come along, plant some veggies and fruits and other bits and pieces, and as a community you can then sort of, you know, grow your own food, which is really nice. Surprising how much work goes involved in that. You know, people have to give a lot of their time to manage that. This lovely tree is a black locust. Goes by many other names. Quite often what you'll see, typically more on the lower branches, but it's not doing it. You get a lot of suckering and lots of spiny branches. You can actually, here we go. You can just about see that really sharp spine just there. But as I said, it's to stop browsing herbivores really. But this is not a native tree, it's American, but a lovely tree, and they've got lovely white flowers. The bees really like them, and there are a couple along Sidwell Street, I seem to remember. Now this is the tree of the park when it comes to the biggest native tree. So this is a hornbeam again. Lovely specimen. There are more hornbeams within the actual sort of playground part of the park, but this is the biggest hornbeam in the park, and actually I'd probably say it's one of the biggest I've come across. So hornbeam is a native tree species of the UK, so again good to see, and it's nice to see such a good specimen. I mean, I can see there's a couple of lower branches that probably need to be removed because you can see some decay on there, but overall that's, again, as trees get older, that's how they deal with it. They'll shed those old dead limbs, but overall a good tree, lots of open ground for it, and I believe later on there'll be lots of bluebells coming up soon as well. Now other trees, you don't know if you can see that small evergreen in the centre of the park. Again, that's a relatively new one, so that's an Atlas cedar. I would say that's a standard sort of green variety. This large tree in front here, this is a type of cherry. You see some starlings up there as well, having a little chat. Be nice if I could understand them. So yeah, lovely cherry tree. I believe it's a type of flowering cherry. I've not seen fruit on that before. I think that looks like maybe a type of pyracanthus in there. These lovely shrubs that are scattered along the edges, I believe their common name is red robin, because you've got these lovely red tufts here. So they're sort of going to flower shortly. Now if you can see these mounds here, what the council have done, and this is really recent, I've not been here for a few months, but these used to be tree stumps. Now from memory, the two on the right I think were old black locust trees. I'm not sure about that one because that was done a long time ago. I'd hazard a guess they were all black locusts, but can't be sure. But what they've done here is they've actually completely lowered the stump and ground it up. As far as I was aware, apparently these trees were diseased. I don't know what pathogens, what diseases, but that's what I was told many years ago. So one of the ways to deal with that is to do this by destroying as much of what's left of the tree. You're not feeding the destructive fungi or whatever it was that was the cause of it being felled. So anyway, we're going to move on now. You can see these other trees here. You've got this small tree in the middle, and it used to be 3 there, but they took 2 down, so that is a small leaf lime. The reason why they took the other 2 is they planted them very close to each other and they would have outcompeted. So yeah, that was done about a year ago. So it's that tree here we're talking about there, small leaf lime. That's a new addition, and that's actually quite recent, so I'm not even sure what type of tree that is. So that's something I'll need to look at later. Now this tree right in front here, this small tree, that's a rowan tree, and that is native to this country, and that's lovely. You then got these two large trees here, just watching, sorry, because there's dog mess everywhere. Two large trees here are Tree of Heaven. They're not native to this country, but they are, I wouldn't say widely planted, but I have seen quite a few. Now Tree of Heaven, these trees are dioecious, so they're either male or female. These trees, and you can clearly see there's lots of fruit on the tree, samaras. So these trees are actually female, and they normally will plant, if they do plant Tree of Heaven, if they're going to plant male or female, they tend to plant the female trees. The reason being is when the male trees are in flower, I've been told they're quite smelly, and they don't make good street trees or park trees if they're making a very pungent smell. So the female Tree of Heaven doesn't do that. The only other thing is that it does generate a lot of what some people would class as rubbish, but it's just nature, isn't it? It's, all of that is going to hit the ground and then join all the leaves and so on. This tree here, this is a type of Acer. This is a box elder, not native to this country, and if I remember correctly, this is a male box elder tree. So now we'll move on to the others. So we've got more of the red robin here, and then we've got another black locust tree here. Look at that, it's lovely, isn't it? You can see all the, so gnarly, and you've got the moss growing. I think you've even got ferns growing on there. I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? Plants growing on trees so freely. Look, you can see the ferns up there. You can actually see, sorry, I just tripped there, but this is much better, a good specimen. You can see all the spines on there, and trust me, they are really sharp. So yeah, black locust, and one thing I didn't want to miss is this tree here. This is the other ash tree. So this is again common or European ash. Can't tell you the age, but it can't be more than 15-20 years, I'd have thought. So that's nice. So we've got two ash trees in this park so far. We've got that large one and the small one, and then moving on down, nice lime tree here. I believe it's a small leaf lime. And then what you've got along here, I believe that might be some old beech hedging along there. Again, beech hedging is really good because it's using natural shrubs, and I've always thought a nice row of beech hedges is a lot better than the boring metal fence. You can really see now how detailed that Tree of Heaven is now. So we'll move on. So I think these ones in front, these are a type of red cedar. Looking at that, and I believe the cultivar is Zebrina, and I'll show you why they're called that. So western red cedar, not native to this country. Lovely trees though. These two trees are great because they've got such good, strong, low branches and limbs. All the kids from the park quite often will clamber up here, and these trees can easily support, like I say, youngsters' weight. So if we have a look at the leaves, we'll need to see why they call it Zebrina. So hopefully, as long as my camera can see this, if you look at the leaves, they're stripy, aren't they? They're actually a type of variegation, aren't they? but that's the cultivar, the name, Zabrina. Hopefully I pronounced that right. I'm not going to go into too much detail on the park, because obviously that's a kids park, so I don't want to be filming over there. So looking at the rest of the trees here, we've got a mixture of Norway maple and sycamore. I'd have to get up closer to be sure. That looks like a sycamore, but I'll double check. Huge tree to the side of the splash park. That is a large leaf lime, that one, and then there's another lime just tucked beside this other western red cedar, and I believe that is a common lime or a small leaf lime, especially common limes, because they're a hybrid between the large leaf and the small leaf lime, so sometimes you've got to get really close up to be sure. So this is just looking at this side of the park now, so we're going to try to go tree by tree just to have a look. Now I know from experience before these are sycamores or maples. Looking at the bark, I'd say this is a sycamore. Look at all the mud. We need to look at some of the, so the buds have sort of got a green colour, and you can see the flaking at the bark. So this is a sycamore, this one here. This looks like another sycamore. Again, if I can just look at the, green buds, so sycamore there, and then that looks like a Norway maple, but I'll check. Actually no, that's another sycamore there, and then this sycamore as well. So far these trees behind me have been sycamores, and then you've got your birch there. Double check that one, but let's have a look at this one. So actually so far quite a few sycamore trees here, another sycamore here. I need to have a look at that one, and that's a sycamore as well. So actually, sorry, all these trees within this part here, this seems to be like a small group of sycamores, but they are different types, because some of them have got like a really deep red leaf, and some of them have got like a green yellow spotty leaf, but they're still sycamore. This is more like it. This is your Norway maple. Yep, so that's one Norway maple, and then here's your other, and birch. So I think actually it looks like they've planted it so that you've got Norway maple, silver birch, Norway maple, and then you've got another type of birch. Again, birch can be difficult to be sure of. Not too sure about that one actually. But this is your other Norway maple here, and then you've got your other silver birch tree just here. Alright there.
What needs coming down then?
Hopefully nothing. This is just a bit of study today. Yeah.
Can help you enough?
Yeah, I think everything's fine here. Yeah.
Yeah, but the trees in the graveyard, we were there when the big branch come down.
Oh, the cedar tree. Yeah.
And we reported it, and fair play, they got onto it straight away.
Okay, that's good.
Cool, man. Have a good day, sir.
Yeah, take care. Thanks a lot.
I won't stop you.
Cheers. So this one here, this is a holly, and hollies are, well, there's actually over 600 types, but I believe that'll be our native species. So with holly, they're dioecious, which means they're either male or female trees. Very difficult to tell. You'd need to actually get right into the flower arrangements and have a look at the actual inside parts. But like I say, we've got a holly, Ah, this is interesting. Look at this one. So this is a special tree. This is a Persian ironwood, or it looks like a Persian ironwood. Quite a young one, but lovely to see. I'll double check the flowers, but I believe they're mostly male flowers on the tree. And so we're now nearly back to where we sort of came on here. You've got, oh, my shoes are covered in mud. You can just about see some hazel catkins there. So we've got a small hazel coppice, some more dogwood over there. We've got a little magnolia shrub, Mahonia, the one with the lovely yellow flowers, another holly here, female, because we've got the berries, whereas the other one, we didn't see any of that, so that could just be a male. But again, doesn't mean to say that sometimes birds will completely strip a female holly of all its berries. So, smallest tree here, it's a type of sorbus. I'd say it's another rowan, but it could be a white beam, but I think that is a rowan. There's two here, three, sorry. And then we've got another holly. No berries, so I would assume it's a male. I don't know why someone's sprayed black on it. That's not good. Another magnolia, and then we're back on our lovely beech tree. Lovely beech tree. So I think this is pretty much St Thomas Park. Lovely park. Some good tree species, and as I said, it's at this particular part here where you've got most, if not all, of the endangered species here. So I'd say the most numerous tree in this park was probably that group of sycamore trees. The most unusual tree is the Pride of India. The best native tree is going to be that large hornbeam in the corner. But again, that's just my opinion. You know, you want to come down here, have a walk round, and have a look at all the different trees. I mean, as I said, this small one here, this sweet buckeye, or yellow buckeye sometimes called, that's got lovely flowers in the summer, or early summer, and it's got some really interesting fruit as well. And then your tulip tree there, and again, lime flowers are great for our honeybees. So yeah, this is St Thomas Park. Oh, there's one other I've missed here. I think that's Chinese sacred bamboo, as they call it. I'm pretty sure it is. That's nice. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you've got any comments, please leave them on the various social media. Thanks a lot.